Hello and welcome to For Book Lovers Only, where we interview some great authors and talk about some amazing books. My name is Rob Brown, your host and chief book lover here at For Book Lovers Only. Today our guest is a self-proclaimed military brat. She spent a considerable amount of time overseas. She's an author and a book reviewer, and today she's brought two of her books with her, Cold War Memories and Taming the Feral Kitty Cat. She has a lot of other books that she's written as well, and she's going to talk about them again today too. So please welcome to For Book Lovers Only, Trisha A. Lindsey. Trisha, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was really happy to meet you a couple of weeks ago for the first time at our Sign Food and Wine. Really happy that you and I had the opportunity to chat, and I was able to get you here on the show. Tell us a little bit about your background.
As you said, I'm a military brat. I've been all over the world. My father was in the Air Force, and we traveled around quite a lot. We've been back and forth between stateside and overseas for most of my life.
And when you were overseas, tell us a little bit about your time overseas, the different cities that you lived in.
I lived in Madrid. They had Terre-Haute Air Force Base there then, and it's no longer there. And I also lived in West Berlin, and it's now Berlin because both Germanys are combined.
I see. And here, when you were living here, you were in Texas for a while, correct?
It's in Texas. I've lived in Mississippi. We've lived in, oh my goodness, Maryland. I've lived in Tennessee. Lots of different places.
Yes, yes. And you were in San Antonio, I believe, right?
Yes, I was born there.
Okay. And you're a Spurs fan?
No.
Not a Spurs fan?
Little bit, but mostly I'm a Cowboys fan.
Cowboys fan? You know you're in Redskins territory, right?
Yeah, but we're America's team. We're all over.
Okay, okay. Not even going to go there. Not even going to go there. But so, and you are an author and you've reviewed books as well?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the first book that you wrote.
The very first book that I wrote was actually a series. It was the Joseph and Blair series, and it's evolved into 6 books now, and I'm working on 7 and 8.
I see. That was the first book that you wrote?
That was the first one I wrote.
First series of books. And tell us a bit about the Cold War series books.
The Cold War series books, we have the first book out, which is Cold War Memories, and we will be releasing book 2 in about another 4 years. And this is a compilation of stories from Berlin brats through the ages, actually. We have stories in here from 1946 up to 1994 with a lot of pictures and history about Berlin.
I see. And how long did it take you to kind of compile all those stories and put it into a book? Sounds like a lot of work.
4 years.
4 years.
4 years of gathering, collecting, scanning, writing, editing, the whole 9 yards. And since then, we've embarked on another book that is going to be open to military brats worldwide. We just want your stories. We want your pictures. We want your stories. Just send them in to us.
Wow, that's really amazing. I like the concept of gathering the stories, and telling people about the stories. Now, from the people who necessarily didn't contribute any stories because they didn't know about the book, but who have read the book, what type of feedback are you getting from other military brats that have had similar experiences in Berlin?
We got everything from tears to shouts of joy. There was, I'd say, maybe 1% negativity, and most of that was, I didn't get my story in, and now look at what you've done. So with the second book, we've let everyone know if you didn't get in the first book, and even if you did get in the first book, send us stories in and your pictures for the second book. And that way, we've got one product out, and you can see how well it's been put together and how wonderful it is reminiscing, because a lot of the stories in there, people say, that's my story, but someone else wrote it. Those are my pictures. I stood at that same place, and someone, also stood there and sent in that picture. So.
And what's the name of the book?
This one is called Cold War Memories, and we don't have a title for the next one, but we are very confident that with the amount of stories that we're going to get in, that we'll come up with a really good title also.
Okay, and how many stories for the next book do you have right now so far? Have you just started, or do you have a...
Wow, we have just recently been allowed from the American, I think it's called American Overseas Historical Society. They have opened up their archive to us. So instead of us having the 20 to 30 stories that we've gotten so far, we have hundreds of stories. And we are going to be able to use their pictures also. So We are hoping to get more stories in, and we collected the bulk of our stories in the last year because people just kept thinking they had more time, and finally we said this is what our deadline is, and we're ready to go. So we're anticipating having the same thing occur again. We're going to do video stories where we actually record. We did that before, and then we'll transcribe them and get their pictures to the written word when we go to different reunions. We're going to one in Colorado, and then of course we'll go to ours in another 2 years. So.
That's astounding. And when, I don't know if you mentioned it, when do you want to get the second book finished and ready to get it published and ready for distribution?
My goodness. We would like to do it in enough time that we can have it at our next Berlin reunion, which will be, I believe, in 2018. So we have a little bit.
About 3 years to go.
About another 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. I like that. I love the concept. I love the concept. And you've brought another book, Taming the Feral Kitty Cat, which is a lot different than the Cold War stories. So tell us about that.
This book came about as a dare. My cousins and friend of the family that I went to high school with were over one Christmas, and they were just singing the blues about women and all the things women had done to dog them out. Oh, if I would have known about this, and if I would have known about that.
Right.
And, you know, my sisters and my sister's girlfriends, we were all sitting there laughing at them, telling them, oh, well, you know, we could have told you not to do that, or we could have told you not to do that. And
right.
Finally, they said, you know, since you all know it all, why don't you all just write a book? You write books, write a book. And I said, okay, well, I'll write a book about it. And they said, well, these are your, you know, this is what you have to do if you're going to write a book for men, because I had never written a book for men before. They said, first, it has to be short. It has to be 30 minutes or less, because I'm not sitting there reading anything all day. Second thing, it has to have a sport analogy, because if you put some sports in there and some pictures something having to do with sports, I might be able to read it because it'll break up the text.
Okay, I can see that. Okay.
I said, okay with that one. They said, it has to be ready before the first preseason game of this coming year. And this was in December, because this was at Christmas. So I said, okay, I think I can do that also. And they said, and it has to be cheap, because nobody wants to spend any money for any book. Guys, we're just not doing that right now. This is the sports book, make it cheap. I said, okay, I can do that too. So it was ready by the Hall of Fame game, which was before preseason started. It's always the week before the preseason starts. And they just laughed. They read it and they just laughed. Every time someone picks it up and they start reading it, it's really funny.
Now, did they say that it was on point? Did they say that?
Yes, they said it was exactly, and then I used some of their quotes in it also, which they were like, you weren't supposed to put that in there, so it turned out really good.
Okay, and who is the book for? Is it directed towards men, or do you want women to read it too? Or because the book that Steve Harvey wrote, was it Think Like a Man? I think that's directed towards women so that they can kind of get into the psyche of the man. Who is this book written for?
It was originally written for men.
Okay.
But then some of my girlfriends got a hold of it who have sons, and they said, I need to get this for my son because this tells him what to avoid. Right. And then some older men said, I need to get this for my son because I don't want him having to deal with all of this, because, you know, it's amazing how every man thinks their son is going to be the very next great big star. So they want to guard them and keep them. And every mother's like that too. We just see unlimited potential in them. And this book teaches you how to keep your potential moving forward and not get waylaid by a feral kitty cat.
Okay, now define what you mean by feral kitty cat.
Well, there used to just be one or two bad girls in a town. You know, the ones that guys would hang out with at night. None of the other girls wanted to be bothered with.
Right.
But now we're in a culture almost where young girls oftentimes see opportunity to hitch their caboose to the back end of a young man who is up and coming in one field or another. And it's a whole shift in perception of where you can go and what you can do as a young woman. And this book was written as I think also as a way to show them that you can make things and do things and be big on your own. You don't have to look to get that from somebody else. You can get that from something that you're doing, and you know, make sure that you're doing something to further yourself.
I see. So the book gives advice to young men. Does it speak at all to those young women who do want to hitch their caboose to those men? Does it speak to them at all, or is just?
It could show them some things to avoid.
Okay. Okay, okay. Now, besides the books that you have here, you have a few other books that you
Yes,
want to
I do.
discuss tonight. What's the other books? What are the other books that you have?
I usually write in series,
Okay.
and I have a series that is called the Joseph and Blair series, and it's about a black anti-terrorist agent, she's female, who is sent to assassinate the leader of a neo-Nazi group. And a lot of things happen with our government, and she ends up at a later point in time in relationship with him, with his son, and she doesn't realize it's his son, and everything
wow.
implodes. But it goes through 5 books where you learn about the characters, you learn about racism, you learn about people's place in the world, and how it's never too late to change. It's never too late to change, no matter how you've been raised and what you've been led to believe.
Okay. And what is the inspiration for this book? Now, you said it's a book about a African-American female anti-terrorist agent. I imagine you being a military brat, did you take some of the knowledge that you had about the military and kind of
Yes.
inject it into
Yes,
her character?
I tried to.
Okay, tell us about that.
I just wanted Blair to be a very strong woman. I wanted her to be a military woman, and I didn't want her to be necessarily someone that towed the line. I wanted to give her the ability to move in and out of society, but I also wanted her to be able to do a job and not let her feelings come into doing her job.
Okay.
And that's sort of what our military does. They go out, they do their job, they do it to the very best of their ability
Absolutely.
to protect us. So I wanted to write a character that was strong.
Okay. And how many books are in this series so far?
So far there are 6.
Oh, okay.
And another 2 should be coming out. I'm spinning off a character who is Latino, who is also female, and I want a very strong Latino female character who also is military affiliated, but she is Native American and Mexican. And I just wanted to show someone who is Native American and Mexican, a strong female, who didn't sing and who didn't act. I just wanted her to just be out there and be strong.
That's very intriguing. So is that going to continue the series, or is that going to start a new series?
It's going to start a new series with Luz. Her name is Luz Maria de la Rosa.
Oh, very exciting.
Yeah,
very
and
exciting.
she speaks with Spanish and English in the books.
Okay, okay. And what other books do you have out that people can check out?
I also have a series called the Pharaoh Memnant series, and it's about the Hebrew Exodus from the point of view of the Egyptian royal family. And it has some history woven in with it.
Yeah, you love
It
history.
has some Old Testament woven in with it, but it also has a paranormal side to it, because I just never have been able to figure out in all of my readings on Egypt what all of the mysticism was about. It's like a closely guarded secret as to mummification and the rites and the Book of the Dead. And I just thought, with all of this history of the occult, and I just thought it should be going somewhere. It must have meant something. So
Exactly.
I wanted to extrapolate a little bit and have it go somewhere.
Okay. Any other books you have out? Sounds like you got a lot of things out, a lot of things available for
I
book
have
lovers.
another series that I recently started, and it is about, once again, has a paranormal side to it, and it starts off with Somnolic Chameleon, and she is nicknamed Sleepy, and she's an assassin. I think I have a thing for assassins. But,
Hey, we're going to watch you.
it's going to be 13 books when I finish it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So how long is that going to take to complete 13 books?
I'll
It sounds
be
like
80. I'll be 80, and I'll still be writing, I'm pretty sure, with this series. So, yeah.
I see, I see. And you also review books as well.
Yes, I do. Yes.
And how long have you been doing that for?
Oh my goodness, maybe about 2 years. And you know, it's really easy to review books that are in your genre, but I try to remember everybody who is writing has a story, and they're telling their story to the very best of their ability. And I may come in with their storytelling at the very beginning, where they learn as they go along. And so I try to temper my reviewing based on where I think it is that the author is in their journey for their writing. I try really hard not to give terrible reviews, because I think that everything that you've done, there should be something encouraging that I can find out of what someone has written.
I see. And from book reviews that you've had of your books, have you had an opportunity to talk to those book reviewers and kind of get their perspective?
Yes, I often have people who will either email me and tell me what they want me to do, or they will email me and tell me what they absolutely hated. And I have learned to be able to pick something from every single review that I can see on Amazon and that I can pull from Smashwords. I used to be on Smashwords. But I can look at those reviews and then interact with whoever's left it and find out what it is that they liked and what it is that they didn't like. And I've often found that if you just talk to someone when they've left a review, even if it's a negative review, they can tell you why it was that they felt that way, but also you can bring them around to your way of thinking if you explain what it was that you meant. They'll go back and they'll change their review. So there's always hope. Yeah.
Always hope. I like that. So for the viewers who are watching today that are maybe thinking about writing a book, maybe compiling some stories about, their own personal experiences the way you did for Berlin, what type of advice would you give them?
I would mostly say to just write a little bit each day. And everything that you've ever written, go and find it and see if there's a certain way that you like to write. If there's a certain time that you like to write, keep that time free so that you can sit down. I say do an hour a day of something. If it's either writing or it's making phone calls or it's going on social media to try and make sure that you have a presence there, or if you're building a website, or even if you're getting feedback from people as far as where your writing goes, just do something every day for an hour that furthers your career in writing.
And for you, that hour for you, is that reading? Is that social media? What is that hour for you?
It's a combination. It really depends on how far I am in the process. If something is happening that's topical, if I see something on either a website or something that comes over Yahoo, or something on my Twitter, or something on Instagram that has to do with one of my subjects in one of the books that I've written, I'll go on and I'll tweet and I'll retweet and look into that, or go and put that story and send it to myself to tick in my mind somewhere that I can use that information later. So you should really let the flow determine what it is you're going to do. Don't feel I have to sit here and I have to write for an hour, because that's going to make you burn out a lot faster than you. It should be an enjoyable thing.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
That's great advice. So for the viewers who want to get in contact with you, want to learn a little bit more about Cold War Stories, Taming the Feral Kitty Cat, the other books that you have in production, do you have a website that they could visit?
Yes, I sure do. I actually have two of them. If they want to contact me directly about any of the books, they can go to tricialindsey.wix.com/TrishaALindsey. Or if they want to just talk about maybe sending their stories in for the Brats Overseas project that we have going, they can contact me at bratsoverseas1.wix.com/bratsoverseas.
Great. That's great information for our viewers to get a hold of you. Trisha, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We really enjoyed having you here on the set, and we look forward to more books and more series. Sounds like you got a lot of writing ahead of you.
I'm writing very, very speedily. Just be encouraged. I'm writing very speedily.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to great things from you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for watching this episode of For Book Lovers Only. If you want to learn more about Trisha A. Lindsey, you can go to www.forbookloversonly.com. You can get on our mailing list while you're there as well. And also, please stop by the Village at www.villageconnector.com. My name is Rob Brown, Chief Book Lover, and your host today. Thank you for stopping by for Book Lovers Only. And remember, if you love books, we have a home for you. Take care.